Hello, welcome back to everyone that's tuned into our channel, American Ultra Stock. Here today, I'm joined by Braden and Arjun, another GOAT. We are going to give you guys a top 10 USMNT teenage prospects and teenagers. They can be pro or not. Each one of us has their own criteria, so that's going to be interesting. It's going to make for a nice video. Any considerations? If you guys want to explain your criteria behind your top 10, I'll go to Braden first.
Yeah, so my list is based off of who I think are the top 10 best right now. I think there's definitely some younger players, maybe some 17, 16-year-olds that have higher potential, but I decided not to include them yet because they're still pretty unproven.
All right, Arjun, what's your criteria behind this top 10?
So mine is like kind of different to Braden. So I just did like mostly on potential, like who I see can be like the best out of like any teenager in America. I mean, obviously I did include like 13-year-olds. I didn't include like Sullivan. Well, I mean, if you're like 17, 16 up, I included you. So that was my criteria.
That's fair. I think mine aligns more with yours, Arjun. I made mine based on who I think will have a bigger part to play in the USMNT main roster at some point in the future. It can be some years from now. I thought about 13-year-olds like Sullivan too, but I think there's just too raw, too much of a prospect, not really much data that we can consider reliable to back up. Yeah. But let's do this as a countdown, just like we have done in the previous video. On 10th place, Arjun, who do you have starting your list of the most promising prospects?
Yeah, number 10. All right, maybe might have a bit of an unorthodox pick, but Jalen Neal is number 10. He's just, I think he's really calm on the ball. He's a really solid center back against in the Gold Cup. He shows composure. He's not really athletic, like he's not really a pace abuser, which is good because in the modern day, center backs are required to be more technical and play the ball out, use their feet more, and he's a really good player at doing that. So I put Jalen Neal number 10th for me.
Before I go to Braden, let me just say that's my pick too. I put him in 10th place. Arjun and I, we always have disagreements on the group chat. We always end up having a pretty similar ball knowledge when it comes to these top 10s. Yeah. Braden, who do you have?
I went for Caleb Wiley, the 18-year-old winger / fullback from Atlanta. I think he was pretty good at the U20 World Cup besides against Uruguay. But the whole team pretty much struggled in that game against the eventual champions. And he's had a breakout season in MLS, playing primarily as a winger instead of a left back, which I think is a little interesting, but he's been scoring goals, providing assists, and regularly starting for a pretty decent side in MLS. So yeah, I've got him at 10.
Yeah, before we move on to the next, let me just ask both of you guys, where do you guys see his future, Wiley? I see him as a winger in the future. I know some people put him as a prospect for a left back position by 26, but I think he's going to be converting to a winger. What do you guys think?
I see him as a wing back. I see him as a if you're familiar with like a Robin Gosens type of player, like Robin. Yeah, I see him as that type of guy. Especially like in the modern game, when fullbacks are basically just like the full width of the field. They go up and down, up and down, up and down. That's what fullbacks do nowadays, and I think he'll be really good at that. He needs to. I think technically wise, he's not that good of a dribbler to be a out and out winger. He's not that good of a dribbler for that, but he's got great pace. He's pretty clinical, makes good decisions, and he defends really well. So I think he'd be a really good left wing back. So yeah, what about you, Brad?
Yeah, I like the wing back shout since we've seen that he's pretty good defensively and attacking. But I think his future, either at wing back or at left back, just because realistically no one wants to play left back. So the players that can are going to be stuck there. And we've seen lots of wingers recently be converted from wingers to fullbacks, like Juan Cuadrado, Alphonso Davies, Timothy Weah for the U.S. So I think Wiley will become one of them.
All right. In 9th place on my list, I have Keylor Figueroa, the Liverpool prospect. I know he's really young, but as I said, my criteria is who I think will have a bigger part to play in the future of the USMNT. I think he's a really interesting player, very explosive, still really raw, but it's normal for his age. And I think the fact that he's growing and being developed at the Liverpool Academy is a testament of how good of a player he can be in the future eventually. And Yeah, I have Kayla Figueroa. Arjun, who do you have in ninth place?
Ninth place, I got Rukas Pukstas. Might be a bit of a weird one for you guys, but he's a starter. Yeah, he's a starter in Croatia. He won the cup with the second best team in Croatian history. Probably I don't know. I'm not a Croatian expert, but I think Hajduk Split's the second best. I think after Dynamo. So yeah, he's a lockdown starter for a cup winning team. He has to be there. He's only 18 years old. So I got Rokas.
There, that's a good shout. Braden.
I went for Noel Buck, the midfielder from Revolution, another 18-year-old who has been targeted by both the U.S. and England's youth national teams. So it'll be interesting to see what decision he makes. Obviously, we're hoping he picks us, but we're going to need to call him in sooner rather than later for that to happen. But he did say he was taking advantage of his time in MLS as opposed to a potential U20 World Cup call up, and he's been one of the Revolution's best players in a very good season for them. So I think he's deserving of this spot.
All right, that's fair. I have him in my 8th place, and I just want to do a quick mention. I think that he's going to pick the U.S. I don't think it's biased. I think he's more than likely going to pick us.
Yeah,
also for what?
I said for sure.
Yeah, because I feel like even opportunities-wise, it's not that he doesn't have the quality to break into that England team. I just think they would be very skeptical to call up an American player to make part of their setup. And I have him in 8th place, so a pretty similar placing. Arjun, who do you have?
8th place, I got my boy Caleb Wiley. So yeah, I mean, I already talked about him. He can be a really good wing back in the future, athletic, makes good decisions. Some like he's a not to go of a dribbler, but he makes good decisions. He's clinical when he pops up from goal. So and he's a good defender. So yeah, Caleb Wiley. It's my 8th place.
All right, Raiden.
Arjun had him at 9. I've got Rokas Pukstas at 8. Like you said, won the Croatian Cup with Hajduk Split, and also was a very key part of their team that went to the UEFA Youth League championship, making a huge underdog run. And I think they lost the final to Milan, but
no, I think it was Alkmaar. AZ. I think it was AZ Alkmaar. I'm pretty sure it was Alkmaar. Because I remember reading that Alkmaar won the whole thing this year. We can go search this up, but I'm pretty sure it's Alkmaar.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, AZ.
But yeah, a huge underdog story for Hajduk Split to make that run, and no one would have expected our Croatian team to be there, and getting his first silverware with the senior team as well, and obviously he didn't play too much at the U20 World Cup because he was too busy winning that competition, but we're going to see a lot more of him in the future as an 18-year-old, and the future is really bright.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I mean, I have him in 7th place, so we just talked about him. I have Puxa starting at 7th place, and I think, like you guys said, he's a really good player, really good prospect, and it's nice that he's getting all of this experience at the pro level. Regardless of it being the Croatian league, that league has produced a lot of talent in the past. I mean, we've seen players like Dani Olmo having to go there to develop and then ending up being a really good player. And I think it's better for him to be doing that than playing for the U20s, to be honest. I mean, it would be nice for us to have him in the whole competition, but it's not that big of a loss if it meant that he got his first piece of silverware. And who do you guys have in 7th place? Arjun.
I got Obed Vargas from Seattle Sounders. Only 17 years old. He's basically a starter. Before the injury, he was a starter. He was 16 when he started for Seattle. He's an MLS player, I know, but at the same time, he's got so much potential. He's really calm on the ball. He makes good decisions. He's a really progressive player despite being a defensive mid. And he's also a good defender. He's only 17 years old, and he's got that physicality about him. You know, that's what I like about him. So, yeah, Obed's my 7th place is Obed.
Nice. Braden, who do you have?
I'm going for another player that you guys have already put, Jalen Neal. He actually got his first senior appearance for the U.S. men's national team before his first MLS appearance, which is definitely a bit unusual, but he's been part of the national team setup since the beginning of the year. or even late last year, and unfortunately didn't make the U20 World Cup because Galaxy needed him in MLS, and he's been a week in week out starter for them despite their struggles. Has been one of the lone bright spots, and yeah, has been putting in decent shifts at the Gold Cup as well.
Good
Yeah, I
shout.
think that it's nice that he's getting starts at MLS, but honestly, even though Galaxy have a huge name in history, I think it's the worst possible team that he could be starting right now. Not because of his own development, but because of the fans. I see some Galaxy fans. I'm from California. A lot of them complaining about him when he makes a defensive error, but it's just a calamity of a season for them. The structure of the entire club is pretty bad right now, so it's not his fault. But it's nice that he is trusted enough to be starting, even if there are in dire consequences situation right now. Going for my sixth place, I have a center back. It's the Tony, 18-year-old, plays for Bayern Academy. I didn't really know much of this kid before, but I started following him, and he seems really, really good. And what stands out is he's a really physical defender and really tall player, and also really fast. He's not that technical on the ball, but really fast. It's nice to get this mix up for center backs. I think nowadays it's crucial that they're very technical, but if he can sort of make up for it with his pace and physicality, I think he could be a huge part of our future. And being developed in the Bayern Academy, I think it's really good. I like when players are developed in Europe, not to bash on MLS or anything, but getting that experience from playing in a youth setup that has more consequences than the ones that we have in the US, where there's really no relegation, promotion, and there's just really no high stakes really for them or even fans in the stadium. He has played in the Allianz Arena before, 3 games, and he did pretty well. Argent, who do you have in sixth place?
I got the cartel member himself, Diego Luna. The boy, he's tatted up. He's fully tatted up. And he's 19, and he's got a wife, and he's got a kid, bro. This guy's speed running life, bro. I love this kid. Anyway, the thing is, I watched him in El Paso. I love Diego Luna. I watched him like 3 years ago, 2021. I watched him in El Paso. He was 16. He was cutting up the USL Championship, and I know it's not that good of a level, but even in MLS, he finally gets his first actual chance, and he scores a goal. That gets a couple assists too. So I mean, Diego Luna, don't write him out, because I think he's one of the highest potential players in our talent pool. And I've been watching him for a while, and I can say that I love the kid. So yeah.
Yeah, honestly, props to Salt Lake for actually rewarding him for his performances in the U20 World Cup. He didn't have much of a run before that. I think it's nice to see a club that actually rewards players that are doing well at the youth level. Like you said, he has done well at the USL level as well. And you said it's a low level, yeah, in the grand scheme of things it is, but I think it's nice that at such a young age he was got huge numbers. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was really impressive, the amount of goals and assists. Yeah. And I don't have him on my list, but he almost made it. He almost beat Neil for my list. But Braden, who do you have?
I've got another center back, Brandon Craig. I had Neil on the last one, but this might be a bit of a controversial take, but I think Brandon Craig is still better, even though he hasn't got the senior team call-ups like Neil has. I think he was definitely our best defender at the U20 World Cup and the U20 CONCACAF Championships last year as well. And his playmaking as a center back is unheard of. He goes up and takes corners, takes free kicks, almost scored a free kick as well, I think, in the U20 World Cup.
Yeah.
And yeah, but very solid defensively as well.
Yeah, a quick disclaimer, Diego Luna is not a cartel member. I was just saying that because he has tattoos. He has he's fully tatted. He has gangster tattoos. So yeah, he's not a cartel member. Don't come after me.
Yeah, he could play one on a Netflix show for sure.
Yeah, get him on Narcos or something. He'd be a perfect but other than that, he's not a cartel member.
Yeah. All right, starting our top 5, I'm going with a player that I think both of you have mentioned, Obeid Vargas. For the exact same reasons that Arjun explained. I think he gave a perfect explanation on why this player should be on this list. He's technical, physical, great, and really progressive for a defensive midfielder, getting a lot of minutes already at the MLS. So yeah, my top 5 starts with Vargas. Arjun, who do you have starting that top 5?
Number 5, I got Cade Cowell. So again, he's fast, strong. He can dribble decently well sometimes, but the thing is, his main strength is his physicality and his pace. I think he's not that good technically, but if he develops his technical game, if he goes to Europe and the European coaches spend some time on him, he can be a dangerous player. So yeah, I put Cowell up there. So yeah, well, what would you, Braden?
I've got Diego Luna, the cartel member himself, as you mentioned. Congrats to him on the baby at only 19. It's kind of crazy, but yeah, like you said, he's been playing well at RSL since the U20 World Cup, and it is nice to see him getting rewarded for his performances and delivering as well in MLS. Good the last couple of matches, and I will admit I wasn't too high on him in the past, but I'm slowly starting to turn around, and I do think he has a pretty bright future.
Hey, can I say something real quick? Just want to tell the audience, my top 5, my 5th was originally, it wasn't Cade Cowell, it was Brian Gutierrez, but he's 20. He just turned 20 years old, so I could substitute him for Cowell. The thing is, I didn't even have Cowell on my list to start this video. He was number 12 on the list.
That's crazy.
I know.
That's
I had what do you say?
That's crazy.
I know.
You didn't have Cowell.
Yeah, I know. I don't rate Cowell that highly. He's a extremely physical player, but again, I don't rate him that highly. I am 12th. Honestly, if you heard of Serge Ngoma, the guy from New York Red Bulls, I rate him higher than Cowell, and he's been injured for like a whole season. I'm not gonna lie, that's a hot take, but I rate Ngoma more than Cowell. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I like Cowell, but he didn't make my list either. I'm not trying to bash on the kid, but I had him in 12th as well when I was making this. So, yeah, I agree with Arjun on that placement as well. But let's see. He's really young. I think Cowell is a really raw player, but with a lot of potential.
Yeah.
On fourth place for me, I have McGlynn. I felt like he was outstanding at the U20 World Cup. A really good player. And, again, my criteria is who's going to play a big part in the future. I think he can definitely slot into our main USMNT roster. Really calm the ball, progressive. Passing range is really good. So, and I've been following him ever since the U20 World Cup. I'm actually watching Philly games now because of him. I never did that before. And I really like McGlynn. I feel like he's a player that's made for the top 5 league player in the future for sure in Europe. I don't think he's going to stay in MLS for much longer. Arjun, who do you have in 4th place?
We can just skip to Braden because I got the exact same thing as you, bro. Again, I have McGlynn 4th.
All right.
So, yeah, Braden, what about you, man? What's your 4th?
This might not be a popular take considering what you guys have said about him, but I had Cade Cowell at number 4.
I mean, it's fair for opinion.
I actually don't rate him too highly either, but I think for what he's accomplished at only 19, he has to be given credit. He's one of the few teenagers who's part of the U.S. Men's national team senior setup. He's been there for a decent amount of time now. He was, I think, our best player at the U20 World Cup. He was absolutely balling. He scored 1 goal where he looked like prime Messi. I mean, it was against Fiji, but still.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, he's already made an MLS All-Star appearance as a teenager. I mean, their decisions sometimes are a bit questionable, but you can't take that away from him. And yeah, just at 19, he's accomplished so much already. And like Arjun said, if he can fix up the technical bit of his game, he can be a really good player.
Yeah. I mean, Braden, like you're right. And the thing is, this is a weird thing about Cade Cowell. He's like the most inconsistent player I've ever seen in my whole life. Like, again, against Fiji, it feels like sometimes he's dribbling, he like locks in, and then he goes for it. He like dribbles past 4 or 5 players, gets an amazing shot off, or sometimes the ball's coming towards him, he gets a shot off. It's like he can score bangers, he can dribble past people like Messi, but then like other half of the times he's like dribbling like he's freaking like I don't know, Axel Witsel. I don't know. Like, I mean, the thing is, he like just like it's weird. Like, I don't know, like it's some sort of mental thing with him because I feel like he's the most inconsistent player I've seen in my life. On his day, when he's locked in, when he makes the plays, he is our best. He's one of our top 3 best teenage talents in our pool, no doubt about that. But then when he just like loses concentration, loses focus, he's probably about as technical as me. Like, and that I mean, it's kind of shocking. I don't know what's up with it, but I mean, if you again, like Braden said, and like what I said, if he locks in a technical game, he can be a really good player. I have faith in him.
Yeah, I think the reason for that, like you said, he's very inconsistent, but I think it's because he's always trying to go forward. And that's something I really rate about his game. He never looks back. Whenever he gets the ball, it's always, how can I progress the attack? But the problem with that is sometimes there's no options for him to do that. And he just gets lost for ideas and ends up losing the ball. But then when he can create something, it ends up looking world class. So yeah, that's my take on that.
Yeah, you're right. It's all about the football IQ. He doesn't have that much of it yet, but I mean, the football IQ comes with age, and hopefully he can develop. So yeah,
I feel like I was going to say exactly what Braden said. Huge props to Kyle for not only being progressive, but never shying away from a game. He can be having the worst game of his life, sometimes for the earthquakes. He's not playing well, but he never shies away. Gets the ball, tries to go forward. Yeah, IQ needs to be polished, but huge props for him for that. A lot of players, it would be a lot easier for them to just cut back, pass it sideways, cut back, pass it backwards. But he always tries to progress the game. And it's something that I like about him and Luna. I think they're both really progressive. But,
yeah, but
getting to our top three, go ahead.
I was gonna say, last thing. It's kind of a paradox though, because sometimes if you're having a terrible game like Howell is, sometimes you just need to regain some like footing. You know, get some good passes in, hold the ball for a bit. You know, pass back, get some good touches on the ball. Don't keep on throwing everything forward, because then you just keep on making the same mistakes for the whole game. And obviously, once in a while it comes off, but at the same time, it's also the MLS. I mean, defenders are not that good in MLS, and that's just a fact. So, I mean, Cowell, like you, I love the fact he's so progressive, but he needs to be progressive at times when being progressive is the right thing to do. If he's being progressive and just getting locked down, losing the ball, he needs to calm down a bit, you know, take his time, play a couple passes, get some good touches in, get some good link-up play, and then go forward, you know. If you go forward all the time, defenders know how to read you. Defenders know how to lock you down. So that's all I got to say about that. And you guys make good points about this, both. I love Cowell. I love his mentality, but sometimes you need to think a bit smarter sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. And getting to our top three players, I have Paxton in third place. I think he's a really good player. I think he's definitely going to surpass Brendan by 2026. I think that may be a hot take, but I think that he's a really good player. Fit is slot in really well at Frankfurt. Didn't get released for the U20s World Cup, but that's a testament that they actually trust him. It was disappointing for him to not get any minutes at the final, but he was good enough to the point where they considered him an actual option to play the final. And if it was in a different scenario, if the game was going in a different direction. So I think he's doing really well already in Europe. Really impressive player. Was our best player in order to qualify for the Olympics as well. He played really well in that competition and the U20 qualifiers. So yeah, I have Paxton up there. I think he's going to be a huge part of our future. Who do you have, Arjun, starting off your top three players?
All right, it's going to be a hot take, but I have Quinn Sullivan. No, I'm joking. I don't have Quinn Sullivan. I have Noah Buck. I have Noah Buck. It's still kind of a hot take, but if I've been watching Revs, Noah Buck is an absolute, like, he's a vet. He's a veteran that plays in the body of a child. Like, he has the IQ of the game that Cowell could dream of. You know what I'm saying? Like he makes a good decision. He makes amazing decisions. He makes good passes. He can hit a cracker of a shot. He scored like a 30-yard banger against I forgot the team, but it was a cracker of a shot. So I mean, Noah Buck might be high for you guys, but I really rate this kid. I actually really like Noah Buck, so I'm putting him third.
That's fair. That's fair. I can see that. I can see those points. Braden, who do you have?
Yeah, Arjun, it's interesting that you mentioned Noah Buck as someone who looks like a professional out there, because I went for Jack McGlynn at number 3, and I think he shows exactly the same thing. Despite being 19, and it's a good thing we did this video now because he actually turns 20 in 6 days. But yeah, he just looks like he's been a professional for years, despite still being a teenager. He's so comfortable on the ball, even when he's in tough situations, surrounded by defenders. He never loses focus, never loses composure, and he always gets out of the toughest situations. And such a good distributor as well. His free kicks, through balls are just absolutely excellent. And we've seen that with the U20s and in MLS with the Union as well.
I was gonna say, you're right, Braden. Like, that's the whole reason I have McGlynn and Noah Buck right together. I have them third and fourth for that exact same reason, like you said and like I said. It's the the maturity they have on the game, the IQ they have at such a young age, that puts them ahead of their peers. So, yeah, you go ahead, Yuri.
Yeah, I was going to say, you said that's somewhat of a hot take. My second place is a really hot take. I don't know if a lot of people, majority of people wouldn't agree. I have Brendan Craig, second place. I know he's probably behind Neil in a lot of people's perspective, but I just felt like he was amazing at the U20s World Cup. He doesn't get the opportunities at Philly. Should probably get a move. But honestly, the way that he plays, I see him, again, my criteria is who's going to play a big part in our future. I can't think of another youngster center back that can actually overtake him. So I think that Craig's going to, especially with the style that he plays, just so calm on the ball, so good on the ball, fast, really good player. So I have him in second place. I guarantee he's going to be a huge part of our future. Who do you have, Arjun?
I got Gaga Slonina. So for you guys, he might be number one. I'm assuming he is for one of you guys, but for me, my number one's a different player, and Gaga Slonina and the number one player are like this. Like they're both basically ones. Like they're basically both top one. Again, Slonina, like 18 years old, playing for Chelsea. Like it is an academy team, but at the same time, he got moved from the MLS to the Premier League at the age of 18, and we've seen how good he is at the U20 World Cup. We've seen how good he is in the MLS, and he's a great shot stopper. He's really athletic. His weakness is his distribution. His distribution is kind of iffy sometimes, but his shot stopping ability and positioning is really good for his age. And obviously, goalkeepers, they mature like a fine wine, right? So hopefully he can keep this going. Maybe by the time he's like 25, you can really see some if he works hard, you get some world class talent coming through in Slonina. So yeah, what about you, Braden?
I got Paxton Aronson at number 2. I think Yuri had him at 3, or was it Arjun that had him at 3?
Yuri had him at 3.
Yeah. So yeah, he's a professional already at Frankfurt. One of our only teenagers to get a move from MLS to Europe already. I know there's some like Pukstas who have been brought up in Europe in the European academies, but for Paxton, he was brought up here in the US, which is always nice to see. And yeah, I don't think many people thought that he would have the impact he did at Frankfurt. I think a lot of people were saying he would mainly be an academy player, but he was one of their main substitutes, always coming in and trying to change the game. And it was disappointing that he didn't get released for the U20 World Cup, but like Yuri said, it shows that Frankfurt have faith in him. They definitely should have given him minutes in the DFB Pokal final. I think it would have really made a difference. And he's another player that I would have loved to see at the Gold Cup, but unfortunately, whoever makes our rosters isn't the brightest, let's say.
Yeah.
But hopefully he'll have a senior call-up sometime this year, maybe for the friendlies against Oman and Uzbekistan.
All right, number one time, my top player, you predicted it, Arjun. I have Slonina there, mostly because of his age as well. I feel like for the future, he's going to be possibly, I hope I'm right, possibly the locked-in starter for the goalkeeper spot for a long, long time. If you take into consideration his pro experience at MLS, his move to Chelsea, he has actually made the bench for a game. And how well people speak of him in London, I think it's not a hot take to say that he'll be starting for some club somewhere in the championship, possibly at 22 years old, 23 years old. And that's hugely impressive for a goalkeeper. Like Arjun said, they usually mature like fine wine, get their opportunities to be a starter later on. Slonina, he's a really, really promising goalkeeper, great shot stopper. And I'll be honest, I think his distribution is poor. I think it's not. I'm not criticizing him too much when I say it's poor. It's pretty realistic to say it is. But I think that goalkeepers should primarily be shot stoppers, and he's great at that. Great positioning, comes out of his goal well as well. So I have him in top spot. Arjun, who do you have as the most promising teenager in the U.S.?
It was always going to be either Slonina or Aronson for me, and I got Paxton as my number one. Same reason as Braden mentioned, same reason as you talked about him. Paxton was, what else there to say about him? He's 19 years old, playing for Frankfurt. Got held back from the U20 World Cup. Big sign. The club loves him, like Braden said. So, yeah, Paxton, number one.
All right. Braden?
Yeah, I've got Gabriel Sonina as well. It was a very tough decision for me and very hard to put him ahead of my Union boys, Paxton and McGlynn, but realistically, I had to do it. The fact that he's been signed for Chelsea at such a young age just shows a lot. Like you guys both said, goalkeepers always seem to mature later and have their prime later. And the fact that Sonina has all this experience at still 19 is quite frankly unheard of. I think it's not a stretch to say that he's the best U20 goalkeeper prospect in the world, not just in the US. And I think he definitely has the potential to be the best goalkeeper we've ever had. I know we've had a big history of goalkeepers, probably the one position that we do keep consistently pumping out. But yeah, in the U20 World Cup, he was phenomenal as well. He kept a clean sheet through 4 games as well, up until the Uruguay game, where he did have a little bit of a stinker, but he's only 19. He should get a pass for that. And all the experience just kind of speaks for itself.
To wrap it, just final thoughts here before we wrap up. Again, all these players, I mean, same with every other player with potential, you know. It all comes down to the hard work and mentality because they're all pros for a reason. They all have got insane talent, you know. Every person who's a pro, every young player coming through academies, they've all got insane talent. It's about the mentality. You know, Ronaldo had the talent, Messi had talent, but they didn't get there from only talent. It's about the mentality. So again, I really hope our boys can get some some of our senior players have mentality issues. Like Dest has mentality issues. McKennie has mentality issues. I really hope some of our youngins, you know, can get some mental fortitude in there, you know, because Europe is a really demanding place for a professional, and way more than America. Like, American fans are not the same as European fans, and that's just a fact. American clubs have way less stakes than European clubs, and the thing is, I really believe that our players, our youngins now, our teenagers, with the proper mentality, if they just just take Ronaldo's mentality, bring it to themselves. If they do that, they have really bright futures ahead. I really like a lot of our young kids, you know. And 10 years ago, we didn't have this talent, you know. 10 years ago, we were rocking with I don't even know, but I mean, we McKennie, Pulisic, yeah. But like 20 years ago, we didn't have this talent, you know. But the thing is, it's all about the mentality. So I really hope these kids can, you know, bring the mentality to the table. I like them a lot.
Yeah, I think the US actually has the perfect example of what you were saying, Arjun, with Freddie Adu. Obviously, he was touted not just by Americans, but by the whole world to be a potential superstar, world class potential. Made his pro debut at I think 14. Just probably still I think the brightest talent we've ever had. But the mentality got to him, and his career just completely flamed out. Unfortunately, it would have been something special to see him as a veteran with this new golden generation we have. But I think we can our young players can use him as a warning to not let their like emotions get the best of them, have a good mentality, and really just focus on their careers.
Yeah, don't let your talent get in the way of improvement. You know, don't let your talent get in the way of improvement. That's the saying that I need to say to a lot. I keep myself, you know, and a lot of my friends too. If you're talented, don't say I'm talented. I'm just gonna chill. I'm just gonna let my talent do the work. You know, don't let your talent get. And all the viewers out there, don't let your talent get in the way of improvement. You can be the most talented person in the world. Put in the work. You're gonna become the greatest to ever live. You know.
All right, that's a great note to end it. I mean, I'll pass it on to you, Arjun, to do the outro. That was inspiring.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching another video from the USMNT AUC talk. If you liked it, you know, smash that like button, comment down below your thoughts. Do all of that. You know, we'll be back soon. And yeah, peace out, boys.